Fitzmaurice, please, you have 10 minutes. You're familiar with rural Ireland, I suspect.
I welcome the opportunity in speaking on this issue. First of all, Minister, I think that most deputies couldn't be hitting you too hard. In fairness, I'll say one thing about you: if you have money, you'll spend it. The biggest problem is that you have the biggest part of the country. You have the biggest part of the country. You have the biggest part of the country to look after, but you haven't the biggest budget, unfortunately, in the department. Minister, since in the last couple of years, and I think it was during the programme for government, and that, in fairness, the likes of the LISs have been a great help to rural Ireland. Town and village has done good things. The tidy towns, and you've taken an interest in that. In fairness, there's an awful lot of voluntary people out there, and I think we have issues at the moment that's thrown its head up there, and I think together we all need to address that. Rural regeneration has been good. The CLAR is good. All those schemes, in fairness, are doing good in the different parts of the country. There might be a fight for it. There isn't, in our opinions, big enough of a budget for it. But in fairness, anywhere it has been done, it has helped rural Ireland. And as you go around towns throughout the country, a lot of them, in fairness, are looking better. There are some towns that have fell backwards, and I think we need to find the reason that that has happened. We have also seen places where that has got the likes of the funding for the food hubs, which has been great, and it has done good. The likes of the Wild Atlantic Way, or tourism ideas. That's welcome, and there's no point in saying it's not. But if we're to solve rural Ireland, it's not going to be just the Department of Rural Affairs. And the first thing I would say that you should be given authority for, Minister, and I would back it 100%, is for rural proofing every other department's decision. Because the other decisions that's made in departments can have catastrophic effects on rural Ireland without you having an influence on it. And for example, we saw 2 weeks ago that small towns that haven't Irish water in it, and you're familiar with this, we now don't have a community sewerage scheme. And I would ask for you, and we will back you 100%, that funding is given to be it your department or some department for those small towns, because the Department of Environment at the moment will not give funding unless there's an Irish water scheme there. And that's another section or another area of the country that won't be able to build because of the restrictions put on. Also, Minister, in the line of the small towns, I have asked you before, and in fairness I know you're looking at it, that the towns under, say, 500 people, that we'd have a sort of a grant system for them, because sometimes they feel that they're, when there's applications in with bigger towns, they feel sort of, if they don't get something, they feel left out. I would ask you to consider that. Another thing I've said to you, and I know that the local link is a help in areas, but Minister, with what another minister has brought in here in transport, in the line of the pubs are on their knees across rural Ireland, and I have said this time and time again. I believe we need communities given the option of buses, or this Uber that everyone is on about, or where you have a one-horse town that if there's only one pub in it, that they could get a rebate back to leave people home, because for the simple reason they need to survive as well, and they're needed in their locality. They're nearly in small villages. You might have a pub and a shop, but that keeps the heart of the community going. I think, Minister, as well, in education, we need to make sure that we keep the small rural schools up and running, and it's ferociously important. But if we want to do some of these things, and it's not your department only, and there's no point, I'm not going to find fault with you here tonight. What I am saying is other ministers have to step up to the mark, or else you'll have to have the say on them to veto what they're doing. In the line of, if we want people, and we know that there's a population in parts of the country that's getting older, some of those people will need, in my opinion, one-bedroom houses in a small little village, and that needs to be done. But also we need to replace them with people and give incentives. I would say we need to be looking at a bigger tax incentive for people to live in rural Ireland. We also need for businesses the likes of rates that are looked at and incentives given that way for businesses to make sure that they stay there where they haven't the throughput of other areas. We have seen down through the years, Minister, that the likes of the TIN-T, and it's in the programme for government, hasn't been done yet. That is Minister Ross's job to do, but he doesn't seem to know how to write to Europe about it. In the line of infrastructure, the new road from Dublin to Galway and from the extension that was put onto it is a great road, and let no one deny it. But we need that road to Derry, or up to Letterkenny. We need to join on to the A5. We need to join the links. Cork-Mallow needs to be done. We need to make sure, because it's getting more accessible to travel a country, the better the infrastructure we do. We also need to make sure that another minister, in broadband, that's resolved, and resolved quickly. And the same minister, and let's be honest to ourselves, if a carbon tax comes in that's being proposed, it is going to affect the people in rural Ireland that's driving to work, because there isn't a CIE bus or a Lewis or a tram or all the lovely different things that you have in the big cities. And we have got to make sure that we do that. The other side of it, Minister, is, and I hope that we are not paying the price in rural Ireland for what the likes of the Children's Hospital is costing in the line of mental health services, daycare centres, hostels, and we see the Rosalie unit in Castlereagh, what was said today. We need to make sure that the facilities that were in towns are kept in towns to make sure that people are given the opportunity. Another minister then that can have a part to play in rural Ireland is agriculture. And at the moment, and you come from a county like myself that has a lot of small farms, we see 80% of the money going to 20% of the... There is a new cap coming, and we need to make sure that the family farm is protected. We need to make sure, at the moment, for anyone that came out of AOS, there is no environmental scheme to go into now for at least another year maybe, or 18 months, or 2 years. And this is the type of a magic bullet that will keep some farm family surviving in rural Ireland, rather than somebody getting old and their youngster saying, sure, what would I go at that for? Because it's not paying. We need to concentrate on the likes of the suckler and the beef to make sure that we keep people on the farms and encourage young farmers. It is ferociously important, as Deputy Scanlon pointed out, the meeting that went on yesterday. We need to make sure that we encourage youngsters back into the land and not go back into a country like we're heading in some parts for landlordism at the moment. There is also the Department of Environment, Minister, where you have people might live on a road that the TII are in control of, and they're as well throw their hat at trying to get planning permission. You have to go out the same driveway as your mother or father, or you have no hope at all before you even put in the planning application. And in planning one-off houses, it's getting stickier and stickier. And someone has to call a halt to this. We need water schemes. There's a 3-year plan for the group water schemes being looked at the moment. But I was in Galway the other day, and we were told that there's no funding available now until that new 3-year magic bullet is going to come. And for somebody that's in an emergency, there needs to be money there. And we need to make sure, and in fairness to new subsidies, 100%, there's nothing wrong with them, I'm not criticising that, but we need to make sure that for upgrades that we're not wasting water. In certain parts of the country, there is housing problems, and we need to make sure that that's addressed. But I would ask you, Minister, one thing, that if you could push a button, that you get the chance to rural-proof things on the other ministers, because unfortunately, you know what rural Ireland is. You come from rural Ireland. You know what the heartbeat of it is. But unfortunately, some people, maybe senior civil servants, don't understand that there is more than inside them 50. That there is a lovely part of the country, what we call rural Ireland. You won't live in a better place. You won't rear children in a better place. It is the best part of the world, in my opinion, to live in. Yes, there is things that we don't have that others have, but we can make this better working together. But we have got to understand, how do we make it better? And we need all the other departments. At the time of the programme for government, I was emphasising this. We need all the other departments to listen to the likes of rural affairs and the problems that's in place to address that. We will not solve it by going down the road that we've done for the last 50 or 60 years. Because if we look at the figures and we look at the flight of the land, it tells you itself. We started with 300,000 farmers in the 70s when we joined the EU. We have 130,000 now. We need to make sure we make things attractive. And if we make things attractive, and in fairness to you as Minister, you will do it if you're given the money. And I will back you 100%.
Thank you very much, Deputy Fitzmaurice.